Six Nations team of the tournament, folks. Apologies, this is a little later than I would have hoped to get this video out. However, I wanted to have a little dive through some of the stats and reacquaint myself with some of the earlier performances before picking 15 guys. I'm actually going to make it 23 for this one. I'm going to include a bench as well, which is more than normal. But hey, we'll go through them. I'll kind of pick them from the ease of picks, like the most obvious picks, through to the most difficult ones where it was more of a 50-50, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. I will be surprised if anybody does not pick Louis Bielle-Biarrey for their team of the tournament. I think he's pretty much a shoo-in. He is nominated for player of the tournament, I believe, and if he doesn't win it, I'll be a bit surprised because 8 tries. Record-breaking effort. It just looks absolutely unplayable at times. He also tackles well for a winger. He ends up with like 78%, which is more than most wingers. Gets dominant tackles. It's not just about flashy try scoring with that guy, but geez, he's quick. His ability to chase his kicks is almost like a cheat code at times in a video game. Yeah, line breaks, meters, beats defenders, tries. A real weapon. Another guy I've gone with in the front row is Dan Sheehan. One of the real kind of standout Irish performers. I mean, he got 5 tries in the competition. I know he got a few of them in that last game, but yeah, Dan Sheehan with his around the park stuff, I do feel like has an X factor which other hookers don't quite have. If you compare his stat numbers to everybody else's, the numbers confirm what you see with your eyes. He is very, very good. 6 defenders beaten. The Irish line-out was solid. He tackled at like almost 90%. I think it was 89. Dominant tackles, as well as his try scoring. He was generally a pretty outstanding guy. This one for me was a real easy pick. I'm not sure about for everybody else because he got injured, but Antoine Dupont, I know he only played 3 full games and then the start of the 4th, but his numbers are just far and away better than everybody else. He has 7 try assists in the Six Nations. 7, which is the top of anybody in the entire competition. He scored a couple of his own, beat 13 defenders, and, you know, had line breaks, and his tackle percentage for a number 9 is always very high. He did concede a few penalties, but he's, even though he only played 3 and a bit of the games, for mine, still better than everybody else. Did more. Still has higher numbers than everybody else, even compared to guys who played a lot more game time than him. Like, he doesn't have the fastest pass in World Rugby, but he does everything else better than pretty much everybody else. And, yeah, his ability to just do everything else means he doesn't need to have the fastest pass in the world because he still offers so much more and brings other guys into the game. Another outside back, I'm going to go with Tommy Freeman. I think on the right wing was pretty clear-cut the best right winger in the competition. You could make an argument for like Darcy Graham, but we'll get to honourable mentions and stuff at the end. But Tommy Freeman, 5 try Tommy Freeman, 15 defender beaten Tommy Freeman, 2 turnover wins Tommy Freeman, 2nd most line breaks of the competition Tommy Freeman. Why do I keep saying Tommy Freeman? Because Tommy Freeman was very good. He played 1 game at centre, but very, very good. So dangerous. And yeah, pleasing to see England in a couple of games kind of really open up and let a guy like that into some space. And then I'm going to round out the outside backs right now with Blair Kinghorn. His attacking numbers are phenomenal. He's the category leader for many of the areas. Most carries in the Six Nations, most meters in the Six Nations, most offloads in the Six Nations, most line breaks in the Six Nations. Blair Kinghorn. He's a proper X-Factor player. Got at least 1 player of the match award. Really, really good. Now we're getting to some picks which are a little bit more difficult. Like this guy here in the midfield, Tommaso Menoncello, certainly has a bit of competition from a Frenchman. But I don't think, especially when you break down the numbers and break down the teams they're playing for, I don't think you can doubt Menoncello's contribution. Like, he has 2 tries. I think he's got more run meters than pretty much all the other 12s. He's got 20 defenders beaten, which is incredible, and won 6 bloody turnovers. So it's not just going forwards, it's on defense as well. He tackled at 83%, which is more than many in his position. Basically, if you line him up with anybody else who plays in the midfield and just look at the numbers, he's going to have better numbers than everybody else. And he's doing it playing for Italy. He's not doing it on a team which is finishing first or second or third in the Six Nations. He's doing it on a team which only got one win. So, special player. He's also been nominated once again for player of the tournament, which he won last year. I'm going to round out the midfield with Hugh Jones. Hugh Jones also had some competition from a particular Italian midfielder, but I'm going to squeak through Jones on this one. It's hard, but I think, what did he get, like 4 tries? Also busted tackles, I think 8 of them. Won a couple of turnovers, not as many as Brex, but linked up so well in that Scottish backline, got through a heap of meters. How many tries was he like the one who had what would be like a secondary assist if they did that? Like the pass, which maybe got them into some space, someone else was able to take that space and then get the final ball to a support line runner. Hugh Jones. Scottish midfield is really, really good as well. It's pleasing to see, teams like Italy and Scotland who didn't finish in the top half of the Six Nations but still have really cracking guys in the midfield. Number 10, hard one, but I went with Finn Smith. I think he had a very good Six Nations. Didn't even start the competition as the preferred number 10 option, but finished the tournament looking like, like a hard man to drop right now for England. Kicks his goals really well and just looks like he's got heaps of time. Looks really comfortable for a guy his age and doesn't really have any kind of real calamitous moments. He's a very steady pair of hands. Kicks the ball a fair bit, which is going to be part of your job if you're playing for a Steve Borthwick team. You and your number 9 are going to have to put a fair bit of boot to ball, but he also defends really, really well. He's like, some guys in that position can be a bit of a revolving door or can be a liability that sometimes you need to hide. Not this guy. He's quite comfortable to step up and put in big hits, put his body on the line, and sometimes that allows the forwards those English loose forwards to really get in there and pinch the ball. So yeah, directed the team around the park, and I think Finn Smith looked pretty good value. Haven't got any loose forwards on the board yet because they are very tricky, but Ben Earl, he's another one amongst many, many loose forwards who I don't know. I mean, you could pick somebody else, but if you look at the numbers, the most carries for a forward in the Six Nations, the most run meters for a forward, the most line breaks for a forward, second equal for turnovers won, a load of tackles. Ben Earl. What else do you want? The guy was quite incredible. But loose forwards, I do feel like, are the most competitive position across world rugby generally. You can look down the world rankings to teams which are very highly unfancied, but they've usually got pretty classy loosies. Haven't got any props on the board yet, but I think at loose head you can put Jean-Baptiste Gros. Very, very solid for France at loose head. I think he only conceded 1 penalty across the Six Nations, which is unfortunate because he got carded as well. So I think that was an accumulation of team things. I don't think he conceded any scrum penalties, which is always a very good sign for a prop that you're doing a good job. Tackled at like 92%, beat defenders when he did have his carries. Yeah, France. Their scrum is a hard one to push around, and Jean-Baptiste Gros, even though he only gets to play like half a game most of the time, still has some of the best numbers in the comp. And alongside him, the other side of the scrum, I'm going to put Will Stewart from England. I think he had, I don't know if we call it a coming of age, because the dude clocked up 50 caps during this tournament, which is bonkers to think that he's been playing that long. It seems like only yesterday he was just getting into the English squad, but geez, he's been consistent and just like slowly, I guess, just kind of raising his level to be proper class. He's got some footwork on him as well, which is crazy, but he gets himself a try. 89% was his tackle percentage, which is great. He wins a turnover, he beats some defenders. He also only conceded the 1 penalty, which is across an entire Six Nations something that most props can't say. So yeah, Will Stewart, I think, did a pretty phenomenal job. Locks, I was a little bit strict with myself in that I wanted to pick proper tight head lock, loose head lock, not just 2 of one or 2 of the other. So I went with Maro as your kind of loose head lock. He does concede some penalties. 8 of them, which is too high, but like another guy in his neck of the woods, like Tyke Byrne from Ireland, conceded 7. Like when you're in that defensive role where you're trying to pilfer ball, you are probably going to concede penalties. Like Tyke Byrne and Maro Itoje are very good pilferers. And the fact that they're both right up there on the penalty count, I think, fits with the role. But he concedes 8. But everything else about his numbers are great. He's the second guy in the entire competition for lineouts, 1 behind Federico Ruzza. Has a tackle completion rate of 92%, which is world class. 4 of his tackles are dominant, which are right up there. He even scores a try, the Six Nations, which is not something he's really known for. And he proved that he could be a proper leader around the park for the English squad as well. Just maybe needs to concede a fewer penalties. The other lock I went with was Guillard from France as that kind of tight head lock. He's only a youngster as well in terms of his international career, but bloody hell, he was good. Also bagged himself a try. Also was a threat at the breakdown in terms of turnovers won. Also had a tackle percentage in the 90s, also 92. Doesn't concede any penalties, which is something that you can't say for Itoje, but Guillard, I think, got nominated for a kind of breakthrough player as well, and I think pretty rightly so. I might have had him to win it, to be honest, but the role of a lock isn't quite as headline grabbing as a number 10. So for me, Guillard goes there. Flankers, because I picked Earl as a number 8, because he did play 2 games at number 8. Flankers, I've gone with Francois Cros from France. I have called him a couple of times the unsung hero of the French pack, so I'm going to keep singing his song. He was such a valuable contributor, and the fact that they leave him on the park when making so many changes, I think shows you how much faith Galtier has in what he does. He's got great ruck numbers overall. I mean, so does Itoje. I didn't even talk about Itoje's ruck numbers, but Cross has got great ruck numbers. He's the 4th top tackler of the entire competition, but like first for France because he is an absolute tackling machine. He wins 3 turnovers, and he's also one of the top line-out guys. So not a lot of the Lucies that relied upon at line-out time, but Cross filled that role for the French, so very important. And then one more flanker. Geez, there's so many you could go for. I wanted to check this guy's numbers out because I didn't want to pick anybody as like a everyone gets a prize, every team needs to be represented. So I wanted to check out Jack Morgan's numbers, and the space just barely. Yeah, his numbers are pretty bloody good. Pretty bloody good. In a side which had a pretty atrocious campaign, he finished as the top tackler of the entire competition. Funnily enough, his team had to do a fair bit of defending. His 2 turnovers won is on the lower side compared to some of the other Lucies, but 10 dominant tackles is unbelievable. The rain's just started to piss down. 143 meters for a Lucy is a hell of a good number on a side which is obviously not getting go forward. He scores a try. He only has 3 penalties conceded across the Six Nations, which is not too bad, and a guy having to do a lot of defending. So Jack Morgan, his numbers compare favourably, but it was a bloody hard pick to pick Lucy's because there were so many good ones. If I'm doing a bench, my reserve hooker is going to be Malvaka. Obviously a bit of controversy in that last game, but it's a team of the tournament, not team of the last game. Like same with Jack Morgan. The Welsh pack got dominated by England, but again, team of the tournament, not team of the last round. So Malvaka I thought was bloody good for France. Him and Sheehan are 2 of the best hookers in the world. Andrew Porter I would chuck as the loose head replacement, but I don't know that Porter was at his normal level. The fact that he would normally be probably the starting guy on the team of the tournament, but not this year. I don't think he was quite up to the level of Gros, although Porter has to play more minutes than Gros does generally. Likewise, Xander Fagerson is probably the busiest prop around the park, but maybe it would be better off if he didn't have to play as many minutes, if they had a replacement up to his level. Imagine what he could do if he only had to play 45 minutes a game. Thibaut Flamand in the second row was also phenomenal. For France, very, very busy around the park, and very unlucky not to be starting. You could easily chuck him in there. I went with a couple of Lucies because we've got to go more forwards on the bench. I put Tom Curry in there because he has been phenomenal for England. Tackle machine, turnover machine. I also put Greg Aldrit because he's also like one of your top guys for hitting rucks. And even by his standards, I don't think Aldrit had like his best ever tournament, but that's saying a lot because he was still phenomenal. And then I kind of been a little bit sneaky. I've chucked in Capuozzo as a reserve utility who can play halfback at number 9 because we've seen him do that before. Be a big thing to do at a test level, but I'm going to chuck him in there because I think he's been a real threat for the Italians, and the fact that he can cover 9 is also an advantage. And then Moefana, also very unlucky not to be in the starting team. Moefana can cover the midfield and the outside backs too, and likewise had a phenomenal tournament. So that is the team of the tournament for the Six Nations, and I couldn't help myself, but I had to pick myself a snub 15 as well. These are the guys I've snubbed. You can make a team which is Fischetti, Cherry, and Antonio in the front row. Those guys are hella good. I didn't pick any of them. You could have Byrne and Miafu in the second row, which is arguably better than these guys, to be honest. Richie, Curry, that's Ben, and then Kalen Doris in a back row. That would give these guys a proper run for their money. And then you could pick a back line of Alex Mitchell, Roman Intimac, Bundyaki, Ignacio Brex, James Lowe, Darcy Graham, and then Thomas Ramos. Like, that'd be a hell of a game. Teams like that. That's just a snub 15. You could keep going. You could pick a second snub 15 and they'll still be very good. I guess that is the depth in the Six Nations at the moment. But hey, I've picked enough guys, talked about enough for a wee while. It was a cracking competition, and I enjoyed it. Went down to the final game. Once again, congratulations to France. I think I've got mostly French names on the board, but I didn't count them. I wanted to try and do it based on merit than just trying to make sure everybody has a name on the board. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for your support over the course of the Six Nations. It's been really good to have you guys along and doing your comments and liking and subscribing and all that jazz. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, if you made it all the way through the video, big thank you for that. And yes, take care, folks. Talk to you again soon. See you later.